Hello, good evening. Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here, and I'd like to thank Amos Yadlin for this impressive conference. I heard that yesterday some people talked in the Knesset about, pulling things out of their sleeves, but I'm here to talk about a strategic plan we had been working on in the past few months. It includes 5 practical steps that we need to promote in the short term in order to establish security for Israel. I think that we've seen both recently and also in the Protective Edge report that in many places thinking out of the box is required. I shall soon elaborate, but first of all, I'd like to extend best wishes of success and a warm friendship to the incoming President of the U.S., Mr. Donald Trump. His success is our success. A good friend has entered the White House this week. I believe that we shall be seeing a President of the U.S. With very clear, unreserved, and absolute support for Israel. This is also a good opportunity to thank President Obama that despite of the well-known differences of opinions and disagreements, he was a true friend. The security assistance and the security collaboration with Israel has grown during his term of office, and we should be grateful to the President Obama, the government, the administration, and the Congress for that. It is important to bear in mind and also to mention that the deep relationship between Israel and the U.S. does not depend on the person who is in the White House and in Balfour Street. The relationship between Washington and Jerusalem is based on a long-standing ideological alliance with shared values that is backed by broad public support and common interests. Therefore, I have no doubt that the Israeli government, as well as the new administration, will continue to maintain and develop the strategic relationship and the friendship between the two countries. I would like to thank from here the outgoing ambassador of the U.S., Mr. Dan Shapiro. I truly appreciate his commitment and devotion. Yes, he definitely deserves your applause. His commitment and devotion to the fostering of the relationships between the two countries. He's a dear and decent man, and he deserves all the thank yous and greetings, and I'm very happy that he chose to stay and live in Israel. Unlike some headlines we've seen in the left-wing newspapers lamenting the appointment of the new ambassador to Israel, Mr. Friedman, I'd like to say that we warmly greet and support the new ambassador. Ambassador Friedman is a true friend of Israel. He knows very well all the different issues and has the full confidence of our government. These appointments, and by the way, of course, we welcome today every choice of the American administration. And, just for these matters, we have the expression, the right man at the right time and the right place for the envoy of the American administration is Israeli capital, Jerusalem. Moving the embassy would be the best expression of the change in the attitude. And for upholding American law, I would like to call upon other countries in the world from here, and it is high time for all of you to move your embassies to Jerusalem as well. Moving the embassies and strengthening Jerusalem, this is a step that must be taken now of all times, and it is yet another pillar in the program of national resilience. The government will provide its assistance to every country that will move its embassy. And I'd like to leak something from the cabinet. Mr. Derry said that every country that will move its embassy will receive exemption from municipal taxes, and we were very happy that he is also encouraging this move. I think that all of the party leaders in Israel need to state unreservedly that Jerusalem is the capital of the state of Israel. I urge Herzog and Lapid to also call upon the different countries to move their embassies to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is not a matter of right or left. It is a city that unites us all. Ladies and gentlemen, we are currently facing a new path. It forces us to do some rethinking and revisiting our policy. The National Resilience Program we have formulated is a required response to the changes in the region and in the whole world. I'd like to detail here, I'll try to do it briefly, the bullet points of this program. The reason for change is that the world is changing, and the point of departure for my suggestion is that there's been a significant global process taking place in the past several years. The international arena, there are some significant events occurring that are very different and separate from each other, but all of them are part of a new and broader trend. There's a leitmotif bringing together certain formative events we've witnessed this past year, one of them being the election of Mr. Donald Trump for presidency, the British Brexit, the rise of the right-wing parties in Europe, shutting down borders to ban the entrance of the illegal immigrants. One of the lines of similarities are the fact that people are returning to the roots of their nationality vis-a-vis the elites who advocate globalization and multiculturalism. This is all part of a natural reaction to increased Islamic terrorism in different continents and the fact that regimes in the Arab countries are falling apart. And this movement of refugees is threatening the identity of the different countries and is a security threat that crosses borders. So facing that, countries are choosing to protect themselves and their identities and their nationality. We must also do that. This is a global change, but it is expressed in a regional change in the Middle East. The Arab world is changing. Russia is increasing its active presence in the region, and new regional alliances are being formed. We must, of course, examine everything, every case specifically, but it's also important to look at the more comprehensive, broader picture and identify the trend. Despite the differences between the events I just mentioned, there is a certain process here. We see a return to nationality in the world and international recognition for the need to face Islamic terrorism head-on. Radical Islamic terrorism, as the new President Donald Trump rightfully defined in his inauguration speech, this is already an important change because you cannot win the enemy if you can't even say who the enemy is. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the interesting things is that this trend in which the general population is choosing to return to its national identity roots that we're witnessing right in front of our eyes, but also in the face of the blind eye of the media elite. So it's not just the mistakes they've made in the polls, also the explicit victory of the ideological right in Israel in contrast to the surprise of major parts of Israeli media and their disappointment. We cannot close our eyes in face of these global changes. They require we revisit and replan. And in line with the regional and global changes, it's important to see that the threats the state of Israel is dealing with have also changed. For a long time, we've witnessed terrorist attacks that are regretfully treated as the intifada of the individuals, and it's not connected to the global Islamic radicalism. And fighting terrorist attacks cannot be done only through the narrow prism of a security camera that documents a terrorist. We must lift our eyes and take a broader view, from a bird's eye view, a comprehensive look at all the chapters of terrorism, and terrorism is changing its face and is spreading into new arenas. The BDS that is undermining the legitimacy of the existence of the state of Israel. There's also the legal struggle against Israel, and just last week they said that they wanted to arrest Tzipi Livni in Belgium. What an absurdity. And all of the political diplomatic combat from the UN to The Hague, and everything that's going on in the new media and the cyber world and in the media incitement. We need to stop talking and thinking in terms of the intifada of individuals. It's not an intifada and it's not carried out by individuals. It is existential combat on several fronts that is motivated and fueled by the PA. It is funded by Iran. It's under the inspiration of ISIS, and it takes place in various places such as the political arena and the media arena, the legal arena. This trend of change I briefly described also bears with it opportunities and threats. Today, I wish to discuss the opportunities. We have an opportunity to recalculate our policy in order to maximize the benefit of Israel's national interests. I believe that the state of Israel should not just maintain security, but also build security. We must take measures that will bring security to the next generation, a security vision looking dozens of years into the future and not just a pinpointed interception. And those who look for a diplomatic horizon of Israel losing all of its assets and territories. In face of these people, we must take various measures that will guarantee our future in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the Golan Heights for the future. It's not enough to have a very topical struggle against the incitement, the terrorist attacks, or any specific threat from any specific theater. We must fortify the strategic milestones that are the basis basis for the strength of the State of Israel. We must vanquish terrorism, both militarily but also by squashing any Muslim or Palestinian hope for undermining the existence of the State of Israel. Based on this approach, the State of Israel should promote and lead 5 steps in the next few years, practical measures that will establish national robustness. The first step should be to correct and minimize the political damages created in recent years in the international arena, and there were such damages. We must change decisions, or at least change the legitimacy of these decisions and resolutions. In our relationship with the Trump administration, we must convey clear messages regarding the need to re-examine the nuclear agreement with Iran, to shed off irrelevant declarations such as the speech of the Secretary of State, the Paris summit, and the most recent miserable resolution for the Security Council. All of these haven't brought us closer neither to peace nor to security. Actually, they served as an incentive and a very dangerous political reward for Palestinian incitement and terrorism. On top of canceling past damages, we also need to build the future. In the international arena, we must demand and promote recognition of Israel borders in the north and the Golan Heights, and recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of the State of Israel. In order to realize that, the Israeli government must determine a very clear diplomatic goal. Like I said, moving as many embassies as possible to Jerusalem, moving the American embassy, that can be the first harbinger. Later on this week, I intend to give a speech to the entire diplomatic corps and the foreign ambassadors, and to call upon and to tell them what Israel's expectation is and what Israel calls them to do to move to Jerusalem. These are the first 2 steps in the international arena. The 3 additional measures of this plan depend only on us and focus on strengthening Jerusalem and the settlements. We used to have a plan called Gaza and Jericho first. We tried that path and we paid for it in blood. We also tried freezing withdrawals, committees, and concessions. Usually it cost us in tunnels, missiles, and blood. Now it's high time for a new road. Ma'ale Adumim and Gush Etzion first. They talk about the annexation of the Ma'ale Adumim block will soon bring this law to be accepted. But the word annexation is misleading. It's mistaken. It's not annexing. It's not some kind of an annex we're adding. It's the heart of the country. The town of Ma'ale Adumim is an inseparable part of Israel. It is not an annexation, but an official reunification of an existing reality. The next step focuses on Gush Etzion. Even to those who claim against our existence in Judea and Samaria, have nothing to say against the Etzion block. The places in Etzion block were established long before 1967, about 100 years ago, on the same day that the colony of Herzliya was established, and they were destroyed by the brutal rabble in the 48 war. And we want to establish a territorial contiguity as well as a transportation one, and that can lead to a doubling of the population who lives there. We have construction plans, building many thousands of housing units, expanding Efrat, and more, expanding the sovereignty in Ma'ale Adumim and Gush Etzion, and the construction there will be done with the very clearly declared intention of a future connection to Jerusalem. Our capital needs a security urban surrounding that includes the development of Ma'ale Adumim to the east and to the Edomim region in the north, and this will increase the status of the capital of Israel, both domestically and also one day externally as well. The 4th step of my plan is to enhance the settlements in other regions in Israel. It's high time we see an overall construction momentum. The Minister of Finance and Minister of Housing, who are responsible for construction, were very happy that they've declared that they're building without any barriers in Jerusalem today. It's no secret that Jerusalem and the blocks in the recent years have been suffocated. Construction shouldn't be a response to terrorism. We build because it is our right, it is our duty, because that is Zionism. In order to carry out this plan, there's no need for a confrontation with other countries. We can formulate new understandings with various organizations and countries who understand the new trend, along with very tight collaboration with the new Trump administration. We must advance the strengthening of ties with Russia, Africa, India, China, and the Gulf countries. Before anything else, we must say to the world what we want and what we plan. We must lead and must not be led. It is true that in several European capitals and in the UN building, we can expect staunch criticism and a very fierce struggle. The annexation of the Golan Heights, sovereignty over Jerusalem, the destruction of the Iraqi nuclear plant. These are several decisions reached by Israel courageously in facing criticism from other countries and from the U.S. The U.S. and I'm sorry, I cannot hear comments from the audience not spoken into a mic. Come to a personal meeting and we can talk about that case. Okay, perhaps you know what? I think they're talking about the soldier, the guy who's abducted and is in the Gaza Strip, and his mother is waiting for him. You know what? I'll try and use their crying out as an opportunity to declare that the government of the State of Israel does not forget. We haven't forgotten him, nor have we forgotten the two soldiers whose bodies are still in the hands of Hamas, captivated by Hamas. We meet often with the family and discuss the issue. We discuss this issue quite often in the cabinet, and the government is committed to bring our sons back home. And especially, ladies and gentlemen, and now I go back to my speech, I do not suggest that we get excited by the voices we'll hear in the UN. Israel has become, the cleanser of the consciousness of the United Nations organization. You are welcome to present yourself for elections, and if you'll be elected, then you're more than welcome to replace me. I, as far as I recall, live in a democratic state. The organization that was established after World War II does not manage to stop the genocide and violence. And in order to cleanse its consciousness, it places Israel as its target. The more failures we see in to stop the carnage in Syria and in other countries, the more resolutions we see against Israel. And I haven't lost my hope yet. The outgoing Secretary General of the UN has declared upon his retirement that the UN is biased against Israel. The new position of the incoming Secretary General can fix the situation and perhaps once again make the UN relevant in the Middle East as well. Let me finish and summarize. The world is changing, the region is changing, and terrorism is changing. We must change in accordance with that and establish national robustness for the State of Israel. The 5 practical measures of overruling harmful decisions reached in the international arena and advancing international recognition of the borders of Jerusalem and the Golan Heights, while moving as many embassies as possible to Jerusalem, sovereignty in Ma'ale Adumim and Gush Etzion first, and a renewed construction momentum, all that while striking regional alliances and new global collaborations based on one basic principle, making our combat against terrorism even fiercer in order to guarantee the presence of the Jewish people in their country in the long run. Only based on these principles from a strategic strong point, only thus will we be able to promote economic, regional, and political changes that pertain to the Palestinians as the political plan that we have been presenting in the Jewish home for a long time, the annexation of the sea areas and an autonomy or part of a confederation of areas A and B. What is mistakenly called the Arab Spring, this plan will cause an Israeli Spring, and we will lead this plan in the government. And until you are elected, I hope that at least I will manage to pass our plan. Thank you very much.